know his catchwords: probity, justice, accountability, and social justice. Your Excellency.
Moment that people are quite keen, wanting to hear what he has to say. In your shot right now, Employment Minister, followed by Deputy Education Minister, and then Education Minister himself, sandwiched by his two deputies. Next to him is Honorable Collins Dauda, and the Deputy Trade Minister.
So he's about to give his address.
Mr. Chairman.
Of course.
Mr. Chairman, His Excellency the President, Excellency the Vice President, Nanima, Council of Elders, delegates, members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives of other political parties, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I also take this opportunity to welcome you all to the 8th National Delegates Conference of the NDC here in this determined city of Tamale. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not too sure how many of you had mattresses to sleep on last night. I got the impression some of you had to squeeze yourselves on some pretty hard tables. You demonstrated a spirit of determination. But let me see if I can share with you a little story before I share with you one or two thoughts. It's not going to be long. I have a friend at 37 Military Hospital. I may have told some of you people this story before. His name is Atta. Atta happens to be the attendant at the 37 mortuary. Atta was almost invariably, I wouldn't say drunk, but I guess the nature of his work, attending to the corpses in the mortuary, was such that I think he needed a bit of the akpatashi once in a while. And he was a very heavy smoker. Once in a while, I would meet him and offer him something. But during Christmas, I always made sure I'd send him a parcel. Unfortunately, I forgot to do so this last Christmas. But many years ago, a teacher of ours from a foreign country who died in Ghana, in Kolebu, needed naturally to be dressed up. And when my wife and a few of her colleagues went to visit, well, the cops, they noticed that she had just been dumped into the box, not powdered up, not done up, and things like that. That's when they decided to do something about it themselves, polished her up, had her done up before she was sent back to the States. That's when you begin to realize some of the difficulties in some of these professions. I'm saying this because I guess in a situation like this, if you do not, like in those days, tip the mortuary attendant, you will not get your face powdered, you will not get your hair combed properly so that you look dignified in the box. Anyway, one day I met this friend of mine, Atta, at 37, and I think I must have come back into office the second time, but I knew him long before, and he was looking very sinew, but very dry. His eyes were always red, always smoking and smelling of alcohol. One day, after I had come back into office, I went to 37 and met Atta, the mortuary attendant. Believe it or not, Atta had completely transformed. Atta was looking so good, there was meat on his skin, and I asked, and his eyes were no longer red. And I asked Atta, "What's gone wrong? What are you doing?" And he said he had quit drinking and he had quit smoking. At that time, I was a pretty heavy smoker too. But I must tell you that somehow I was able to gain some strength out of this mortuary attendant, that if he can stop smoking, and I was doing about 3 packets a day, I could also stop smoking. And as I presented my gift to him, do you know what Atta said? "My master, someday when you die, you can be sure that I will powder your face very nice for you." I mean, I guess most people would be shocked, but I had to understand him. That was the only way he could also demonstrate his affection and a way of saying thank you to me. Ladies and gentlemen, last night a few of my colleagues went round to visit some of the delegates and came back at 3 o'clock in the morning this morning, to speak of the deplorable conditions they found some of them in, the unhygienic situations, some of them, as I said, struggling to sleep on the table, delegates who are here without whom we are nobody. Ladies and gentlemen, I find it very ironical that some of us here are actually in charge of logistic supplies like mattresses and things like that. And we could have used this opportunity to supply mattresses or foam mattresses to some of our delegates as part of the logistic provision. But no, this wasn't done. And yet, when of our senior colleagues die or their in-laws die, lorry loads of mattresses, supplies of rice and whatnots are dispatched to go and take care of those funerals. And when it's even done, so much is left to be transported somewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, there is something wrong. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I will come to Atta again. But before I do,